Good. Well, hey, we want to thank everyone for joining today. Solar Slopes here in Utah, in Lehigh, and where we're going to end up doing is cutting this microphone, and so we've got a lot of stuff happening in the industry today. The reason why we're here together is because we've seen tariffs, we've seen ITC step down or elimination that's happening in the residential and commercial industry. We also are seeing large, huge bankruptcies that are affecting our industry, and we see layoff. And does it mean that solar is no more? Well, absolutely not. So we're going to dive deep into it today, and want to appreciate everyone for coming and attending. I'm Dean Chiaravallotti. I'm the host of Solar Slopes, and I'm a super connector. I'm a deal maker. I work with hundreds of contractors across the country, in Puerto Rico, and everywhere in between. And love to be able to talk about different topics and subjects when it comes to renewable energy. And I'm also the CRO at Solar Insure. Now, I'd like to introduce Spencer Paskett. He is the manager for all of Northern Utah over the Greentech Renewables and over the American Fork and the Salt Lake City branch. And we'll go ahead and, Spencer, why don't you give us a little bit about your history in solar and, what you're seeing today? Just, 60 seconds.
Great. Yeah, my name's Spencer Paskett. I'm like you said, I'm the manager of Greentech Renewables. I have been with Greentech since 2016. Seen a lot of change from net metering. Everything else happened over the last decade. And we adjust what we do. So I'm excited to see the adjustment. I tell people every year, there'll be a new challenge this year. We just don't know what it is yet. So we're starting to see what the challenge is going to be.
All right. Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate that. Appreciate you being here today. Taking time out of your busy schedule. Now we'll talk to Andrew Claudio and let you introduce yourself and what you do.
My name's Andrew Claudio. I'm a solar geek. I sell solar, old city homeowner. And then from there, I just realized, hey, solar's kind of dumb. It's missing something. So I got in batteries, one of the first employees at Sonnen. And I went from selling resi to the manufacturing side. It's blessed that I've gotten to work with a couple of really awesome manufacturers, right? Sonnen, Enphase, Anchor, even Hormel. I've done the gamut there. But I've always focused kind of on batteries. Right now, I'm Chief Revenue Officer at OGI Solar. We're a commercial developer, a lot of behind the meter, and we're working on powered shells for data centers right now. That's kind of a thing. I've always been kind of a geek when it comes to product, right? I like groove and the way the metal bend. I pay attention to detail because all of it affects power performance. Spencer was actually one of my customers. So we've been working together for years in this market, but I've worked primarily in the Southeast, Puerto Rico, and everywhere. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. You as well for taking the time out of your day. You're busy. All right. So we're going to talk about something that's been in the headline. We saw this happening. They have really shaken the industry and solar and batteries for sure. And just wanted to talk about that a little bit and, from the manufacturer and supplier side. And Spencer, as far as the supplier side, what have you seen as far as pricing and adjustments and forecast?
Good question. So we see obviously significant price increases. Basically, every model see double-digit increases, racking 15% range battery, and probably the hardest hit with significant increase. Or things like forecasting. Forecasting is a great way to extend pricing before you take the increase. So much going on. Prices up today, down tomorrow. here. No, really, no. Ultimately, going to have a bit of the guessing game and challenge if we're not ahead of the receiving pricing to customers.
All right. Thank you for that. Ben. Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I just wanted to kind of comment on forecasting, right? Pricing is going to vary, and it does year to year. Obviously, the fluctuations that we're seeing in the market right now, a lot of them are besides them being a little bit ridiculous, right? We can kind of laugh at that, but forecasting is super important, not only from a manufacturer and distribution, but with the sales teams, right? Something that I think that the industry does not do a really good job of is allowing these pipelines and that forecasting build and give the sales team, boots on the ground time to let that come out, right? Um, I think if we were properly forecasting at the at sales to the end user, right, and then bringing that forecasting into the distributors could, better manage a lot of holding costs. But we're closer to that. But I think we don't talk about forecasting as much. Right? I think that every good business knows how to forecast, right? Yeah, I think. I mean, that's what's happened. Pricing, yeah, the pricing when these things. I've stopped. I've even stopped looking in. Tariffs are up one day, they're down the next. Like it's I don't know, we're fixing play. So June, July.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, talk about forecasting and being honest and open with the end customer. I was with a contractor when the tariffs first happened, and he didn't have a force majeure clause in his contract. And so he had to either eat or cancel the contract. And he chose to eat the cost at that point in time. But companies, manufacturers, distributors, contractors, it can't afford to eat the cost for a long time. And so being able to be open, upfront, and transparent with the homeowner, letting them know, hey, this is what this is for solar and batteries today. And but maybe by the time we go to install your system, the cost might be. But if you have the luxury of stocking it in your own warehouse and you have the fortitude to be able to do that, then more power to you. But most companies don't. They rely on distribution to do that. So Spencer, if I got a quote on some equipment today, how long is that quote good for?
We were talking about one. We were telling people the quote is good for that day. Next day, it's no longer good. And with the caveat there, we're working with people who are doing good forecasting. We have pretty good numbers for several months. We're holding material for them at that price. But if you call in the special order or something you haven't worked, legitimately tomorrow the pricing cost should be something on there to be different tomorrow. So we're telling them that the quote's good for the day.
All right. So you heard it. Having a great relationship with your distributor, your distribution channel, with your manufacturers, making sure that, hey, if you have to pivot to something else, that you're planning for that your salespeople know how to sell that and be able to portray the value of that to the homeowner, and then your installers are able to install it correctly and make it that it really it's installed right. And so all the way through the chain, the value chain, making sure that you are really keeping up with that. And manufacturers have been stepping up and really training contractors. We see certifications happening all the time. And I just have to applaud the manufacturer side of the industry, because we haven't really seen that like a separate institution trying to be able to certify contractors, but the manufacturers have some really robust programs. And I know with Fortress and Franklin, I've even seen it, Tesla and others, they have great training programs to be able to certify, because this is a very fast deployment of energy and storage. And it's one of the fastest in history. And so you definitely see this is going to be part of the energy future. All right.
I kind of want to add that, to that a little bit, I think words are important, right? and so our definition of those words. And when we talk about sales, hey, that the price is only good for the next 24 hours. Or, hey, you got to give me that price. Going back to the boots on the ground, the sales teams, right? I think we'll use the term salesman or solar, sales rep or whatever. Something the roofing industry does phenomenal, right? I say you can learn a lot from roofers. Like we call their sales folks estimators, right? Because they know that the possibility of the price change, when it's time to sign a contract exists. And that kind of transparency it exists from the minute they touch that home, right? Or bid. So I think that we, as an industry, the proper forecast. I think that again, that starts with the boot on the ground there, right? But change it. Stop at a low drop in the price. Nobody wins with that. But that given an estimate, I think is much better than giving a price low. And then when they're ready to, if the relationship exists, if you've done your job, then that estimate will turn a purchase order. But you got to pop position that sale. I think everybody wants that 24 hours, that immediate close. That's just not, it just doesn't work that way. At least not in energy.
Right. No, I appreciate that. Let's go. I love that in relation to the roofing industry, because we've definitely seen that's a long tail business, right? That solar turned from. So let's move on to another subject here. We kind of talked about the forecasting, and what do you think the biggest mistake you do when there becomes a supplier relationships or demand forecast? I'll ask you, Spencer.
Biggest mistake is we don't. Yeah. Any forecasting is better than nothing, even if it's not accurate. I mean, it's never perfect, and that's okay. But at least you have an idea of what your business really going to look like if you're honest with yourself about what forecasting is, not say, well, we're going to do 10 megawatts this year when last year you fell 4 down. That happens. It happens in the industry. Yeah. But if you're honest with yourself, getting yourself the best estimate, it's generally pretty good.
All right. And remember, we talked about it's not all about bragawatt, right? It's about what you can actually do.
Yeah. And from the manufacturing side, right? The manufacturer sales reps, we are given, quotas and such. You have to sell X amount of product, right? And you take that quota and you pick it and you look at who your contractors are and you assign a number to them based on kind of verbal conversations that you've had. But, most contractors, I'll tell you, hey, I'm going to do 100 jobs this month, right? Yeah. And I take that forecast, throw it on a piece of paper and go to my distributor and I say, hey, man, I got 100 jobs coming from Bob Solar. I mean, Bob Solar, you're going to do 2. Like, distribute that. Damn. Because all my secrets. But that's the best person that I've ever worked in forecasting. I'll name drop Laird Sanders, not in the industry right now, but worked with him at Sound Solar City, then Pace. But that guy, he knew how to forecast. The way he would forecast with his contractor, you would get in, actually speak to the individual sales reps, sales manager, the owner, and he'd say, how do you know you're going to close 5 jobs? He would get one-on-one with the sales folks and how many customers are you calling on? Do you currently have 15? Like he would, drill down and he would say, hey, Bob Solar is going to do 6 jobs. Bob Solar, 95% of the time would do 6 jobs, right? Working with someone like that's awesome, but having that kind of a relationship, right? That's why I go to the earlier statement. You gotta let your sales forecast get time to obtain that proper. And then it builds a stronger relationship with the distributor from manufacturer end. And we understand a little bit more of what's going on in the market. Forecasting is so important. But
So I love it, and making sure that you revisit those conflicts.
Sure.
Yeah. So let's then it's enough. We saw Panasonic. They left the solar and they closed their solar and storage business. Now, when big names, big brands like that go and leave the industry, we saw in recent years LG do the same thing. How do we, let's just say, like, what was your, initial thought on this? We know they left the manufacturing side and were upon subbing out the manufacturing, but and got into inverters and batteries in recent years. But what are your initial thoughts?
From all manufacturing, love the people there. I thought the product was pretty good, but I wasn't surprised. Right, I didn't see a lot of those installations. Like not even on LinkedIn. Right, people weren't posting, a whole bunch of the work getting done. So, but I wasn't surprised. The effect that it has on the psyche, right, is huge. When you see a brand like that drop, right, you're just like, who's next? I mean, this is Panasonic, right? Like, so it's bad for the psyche, but look at the business. And you're like, well, where were the sales, right? I mean, they were doing all the right things. Seeing them at the trade shows, occasionally would see them at bump into them at a distributor. There really wasn't a whole lot. I mean, no, I agree with you. They didn't have the sales. LG, when LG went away, was surprising. They were moving a lot of panel. So, but Gary Dean is we were telling Panasonic this reputable brand, and you go into your store, you see Panasonic electronics where you go. One day it's no longer there, and people start to question warranty. I think they should. There's concern there, but he, he, he. I mean, people know.
Appreciate that. There's a couple other names here that we're going to talk about. Some pretty big names in the finance space. Nova and Mosaic, within days of each other, filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And really, one wasn't shocking because we kind of saw that the what was happening with Sonova, but with this is all with tariffs and ITC uncertainty with Panasonic thing and also Mosaic thing, right? So, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
This with the ITC situation, this is probably the scariest thing for me. Because lending is, I mean, they're obviously making decisions, right? And maybe not the decisions we hope they make, but we hope that money still continues to flow in solar. And in that Mosaic case, that appeared to be what happened. Money stopped. And that, for me, that's kind of the scary part about that. We still need good lenders. Being lenders to change maybe what they're doing, but we still need good lenders. I mean, you guys know Mosaic, right? They were like one of the first ones to do this. Like Mosaic. Sonova ever do. But I've always been bullish on Sonova. I like Sonova. I like what they're doing. You know what I mean? They're still not gone, right? I have hopes for them, seriously. But I like Sonova. Always kind of have, and I think that the market needs a TPO product, right? Between Sonova and Sunrun, given an option, I would all choose Sonova. That's just me, right? The Mosaic. You're talking about a huge company. They were selling. We were selling Mosaic back in 2013, 14, something like it. Back at the Solar City. And that, thanks to Mosaic, they helped fund a lot of those Solar City deals, right? Like when somebody like that goes, that wow, right? A lot of talent, smart people work at these companies too, right? Way smarter than, and that's. But so you lose a Panasonic, right? And now you're starting to see this happen in finance folks. Yeah, free. I hope some other can pull out of it. I do, but I mean, those guys had direct pay. Like they understood the problems with the M1 payments, the shady solar installers taking advantage of some of those root controls. So they started doing direct pay for distribution way before anybody. Like Sonova was a man monster. I hope I really do.
Yeah, and some of the aftermath, some of the contractors that I spoke with that were using was they couldn't fund, so they were either signed up for contracts that haven't started construction, started pre-construction, or had lack of a roof, hadn't gotten the PTO, haven't gotten their money for it, and had to go back and to these homeowners and re-sign loan agreements. And some of this happened with SunPower back last year, and we were seeing it happen on some cases with Sonova, and it's definitely put stress on the contractor, their cash flow, and on the homeowner and for industry in general, and the reputation that it has. So really is this, I would say we've seen companies come and go. I want to ask you, Spence, like how many companies have you seen come and go here in Utah in your career?
Every year, 2 or 3 companies will go away. We were talking about 2 of them early, so just cash bleeding. But we'll see a couple go every year. New company. Some of those guys will land at a plate and help the company. There's always new people popping in the market. 2 or 3 every year will probably go away. I told someone once, it's not if you got a business, it's when, which is a bit extreme, but in that particular moment, it sure felt that way because we've had several go just back. But there are good companies here in Utah. I've been around a long time. Good, like, step sheets and pretty cool. The important thing is to focus on your business, how to stay profitable the way you are, and not say, well, someday I'm going to sell 300 jobs a month. Then I'll be. You don't turn the corner at some random gigantic number of jobs. The corner's turned early.
Absolutely. So let's just talk about consumer trust then, with all these things, headlines, right? What role do you think party warranties will play?
Yeah, I could say that from manufacturing perspective, they're almost in the point, right? If you're a manufacturer in the space, having that third party warranty, let's distributor, homeowner, lets them know that your product is going to be around, but more important, it's there to kind of support if that installer isn't. Like it's the consumer that I speak with. I still speak with consumers. I love going door knocking. Installers. One of my favorite things. Can't door knock through Utah anymore. I don't have a license, but I love it. But it has actually come up several. What does your warranty look like? What happens if you guys are gone in the next year? Like consumers, no, figured out they're not dumb. And in this market, Utah, this isn't a market where you need solar, save a whole lot of money. It doesn't pencil really out. You're talking about that. The Utah energy buyers definitely different. Like the Texas market. You understand what Utah kilowatt is, what the function of technology does. So they're asking for these products. I'm a big fan of. We're starting to see more warranty companies popping up, right? The construction, I love, but I think it's necessary. I only would want that these warranties actually cover labor and installation, 5 possibly 10 years. Right? That would be a phenomenon, right?
So I'll just piggyback on it. We've got a 30-year labor and battery replacement warranty. So, all right.
I got a question for you.
Sure.
How many installs from 10 years ago or from, have any idea?
There's about approximate 1.5 to 2 million homeowners that have solar where the original contractor is out of business.
Yeah.
That's resident.
So that's the argument. If my neighbor has solar and they have a problem, they have no one to call. They're going to tell me, don't leave it. Because when you have a problem, there's no warranty. And so when someone comes knock on your door and says, we have insurance, a lot of makes holler feel good, right? It helps them to have some trust. I guess the word I'm looking for in that solar installer.
Absolutely. And we have solar installers going to our over 500 5-star reviews to gain validity with homeowners. Saying that like we actually really do deliver on what we promise. And it's pretty awesome. We love being able to show that and prove that our model actually works and we're delivering on what we say we're going to. And
I was just going to say I get asked a lot. Yeah, I want to get into solar. What do I do? I default. Oh, well, are you good at sales? But as a company that wants to get into solar, I always say the best thing to do is do OEM. Reach out to the manufacturer, right? Work with a local distributor, find out what product is sold, get your certification with these manufacturers, learn how to repair, fix equipment. Because the likelihood is that you're going to probably get a call. Hey, can you help this more than I'm looking for? So, and it's so much easier to work the sale that way. So yeah, start with the OEM. Some of the I'll give you an example. I know, be it there are a bunch of companies that I know that start doing OEM work, and then from OEM they start to do new installations. I think that's phenomenal, right? Like 2 million, right? Just think about that number. Those are all customers that are going to have an issue with this equipment within 10 to 15 years of being installed, right? String inverters will blow after 12 years, almost guaranteed, right? That's what the bell does. So if you installed a string inverter system, that thing is going to pop year 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, somewhere in it's going to pop. Microinverter system, going to have issues. Yeah, they've got warranties for 5 years, some of the good ones, right? But you're going to have a power electronics issue sometime in that install period. So do OEM work. I probably, focus on that. That will bring up your rating, like I think that often goes to market, just goes untouched, right?
yeah, it's a great market. I have a company, independent energy in Hawaii. They do this, and 30% of the time it ends up in system expansion, a rebirth, or a battery. So all this is really just go to show that service work is something to go after. So we have 25-year battery only loans now. We've got some other creative financing, zero dealer fee loans, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that after we get into this next subject here. Let's see here. We talked about diversification in the new revenue channel. So besides service work, what other things can contractors get into, solar contractors, to diversify, to be able to?
We can learn a lot from Rupert. I keep on saying that, right? You're working with most installers are working with a distributor or an electrical distributor. They have lighting supplies in them, right? Switches. But there's a lot of ways that you can diversify your business, right? It's finding something that aligns with the current talents that you have that you can do without affecting your base customer or your base business, and then you can from there grow that into your just like how many rich people that say, oh man, the way you become a bazillionaire is you have 7 verticals. So people are like, yeah, I've got the houses, I've got car washes. I'm like, you're overthinking it. You're doing car washes. Hey, that's great. Now get into soaps. You know what I mean? It's 7 verticals in the same channel, right? You're doing electrical work. Keep it to electrical. What can you do? Yeah, you, I talk about the Christmas lights a lot, right? I know a lot of solar installers that are doing really good numbers installing these Christmas lights, right? And those Christmas lights lead to doing, hey, now we're doing gutters and roof. And so it's like all of these efficiency things, right? Like there are a lot of ways that you can diversify your business. Don't do it at the cost of your core business. And I'll use an example of a local company, Any Hour, right? Any Hour, HVAC and plumbing, is that you know what they were? They tried to get into solar years ago, right? And I was part of the team that tried to help them to get into it. And as they started to get into it, they realized we're not too good at, you know, but they ended up getting rid of it. They maintained, their core business, and the core business has continued to grow. Like, I would go back, get them up again, and say, hey, target an OEM is new origination to solar. This is a tough gig. They had definitely one of the diverse.
Here, what about
Dude, balcony solar thing. If you are a Utah installer, right, and you're not pitching balcony solar, you're losing out on business. Who knows what balcony solar is? We got a couple people that are nodding their head. Balcony solar has changed European market. I want you guys to look it up. I've been balcony solar, passed a law here in the state that allows you to literally plug in 1,200 watts of solar. You don't need utility interconnection. Some of the equipment is awesome. Stock some of it. I have a balcony solar kit in the little town hall I'm at. You know what? It works, right? I like balconies. If in balcony solar kits, 1,200 watts of solar and all that, get a copy at $2,500, $3,500. And I always say it's like a 2 to 3 hour install. He thinks it's a 15-minute install. But balcony solar is a phenomenal little kit, right? If you're like that, that's an easy way to diversify your solar business. So your customers will tell you no because you're pitching a $20,000 in batteries in solar, but a balcony solar, 4K installed, and it does something. Hey, some solar is better than no solar.
yeah, yeah. And as far as that, this kind of spurred on, I didn't about that we're going to see a step down of ITP fit for removal of them at the end of the year. In a lot has not been passed bill, but that's what's been proposed. And so really, this has brought on a lot of like, hey, an abrupt end to a tax credit, 30% for solar and 40% in or more in with state mappers and things like that on the lease side, right? So really, like, how can companies diversify and get new revenue, new channels, and that's part of it, right? Service, get into roofing, canopies, balcony solar. If that's within the talents of in the realm of what your company can do, and battery only installs. If you're not doing battery only or retrofit installs or written installs, then that is something that you're really missing. You got it.
If you're touching that main panel, right, you should be able to install, fix, repair anything that is related to that main panel. You walk into a customer's house and they have gas, right, to cook with. That's criminal, right? That's literally you're standing over an open flame, you're breathing in crap. Right? Like you tell them, hey, have you thought about electric cooking? It's tell them the advantages of get your folks to sell electric ranges. They're actually super cheap. But I mean, if you're touching the main panel, anything in there, you should look at ways to maximize your business on. And you'll stock electric ranges that you guys are selling them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You have anything to say on this? I think we've covered. All right, great. So I just wanted to look at my notes we definitely have a huge opportunity here because solar is going third before the end of the year. And we've been through this with net metering 3.0 in California. We've seen companies overpromise and underdeliver and fail. We go out of business. Are we going to learn from our past mistakes? Some of these are folks maybe that are considering going solar, and also solar contractors and salespeople.
Oh, that's a tough question. I think we have to set realistic goals and size our business for that, whatever this looks like. There are a lot of solar contractors in this state and across the country. If there's 3 or 4 employees and they all make a pretty good living, they might make more than the 500 or 600 employee companies beyond. But what they've done is they've sized their business accordingly, and they know what they can do, and they're not stretching themselves too far. The last thing you want to do is the end of the ITC, not having calls ready to go, and have commitments to people for 30% tax incentives. They don't get them. That's the black eye, both you and for the industry. But if we know what we're capable of doing, we're planning that, we're going to be. I would say be patient, grow your business right. I think sizing, it's a beautiful comment. Understand the sales cycle, right? Understand who your customer is. Be conscious of what their needs are, not yours. Be patient. You know what I mean? Build that trust. Have the right product so that you can offer the right solutions. Have the right warranty, in place, and be patient with it. But I think this year towards the end, and I'll be the first one to say, cram as much solar as you can on the roofs. That we need to deploy as much of the technology as we can. I think you have to be realistic. If you're not already at sales pipeline, it's going to close. You're not going to be able to sell in October to stock here and get product, right? Like, you need to be selling now to be able to get to take advantage of the incentives that are going away, right?
Huge opportunity right now in the industry. So it's there's a lot of possibility there. So here's some of the things that were brought up by the New York SEIA in their findings. They, obviously with the bill, the way it's proposed right now is that the solar tax credit for homeowners is going to be gone at the end of the year within 180 days of the bill passing. And then as far as leases are concerned, that would have already been eliminated. It's the way it's written at this point in time. And then there's some step down for commercial. It's going to be about 18% in 2026. And then I believe about 6% in 2027. And then the tax credit would be eliminated after that. So there's quite a few, things that are proposed. We're not going to know the effects of this or what's going to happen until possibly the beginning of July. And I don't know if you had any thought on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the room, right? How does this affect in the short term, half a moment sell? If you're not letting every customer know this is probably your last shot of the 30% back. You're probably doing them a disservice, to be honest, because it really is. If they wait a month or two, they probably missed. Secondly, with the commercial 48, right? It's all domestic content. You got to have it, and so domestic content is about to be very difficult to come by. So be planning for that. If you're working in anything that would keep that tax credit longer. So I think those two things are are critical at the moment. From a commercial perspective, we've got a couple of projects, OGI right now. And I'm pushing to get those in sold, closed, because we still have the get them interconnect, right? In many cases, that process on its own is a year and a half. Properly setting an expectation, stress for thinking about time you get, if we're landing a new opportunity now, I've already kind of team probably don't pitch any incentives at all. You know what I mean? And then there's this race to try and install as much as we can while window exists at domestic content. Is going to be hard to hit. Not only because we don't have a whole lot of the domestic pipeline, but what product exists is going to already be allocated for projects, right? So get your deposits in her if you can. Make sure you're forecasting correctly. And this is a good time to sell, and it's not. We in the industry will adjust. You know what I mean? The industry will adjust.
Absolutely. So, speaking about adjustments, we talked about loans and dealer fees this earlier this morning in our conversations earlier this week. So, how can someone save 30% right away?
Yeah, the biggest savings right away is the dealer fees, and that has to change. Obviously, I think most lenders have already started doing that. We see a lot more dealer fee loans than we ever had, but 35% dealer fee soaks up all of that tax credit rather than me. And the reality is you live in a home for 7 years, which is what about the average person lives in a home. You wait 2 or 3 years with solar. That loan gets paid off, 36 months after it's created, and there was 30% interest paid up front, which is astronomical when you think about it. So actually, we're talking about that's really good for us in the industry to have the competition. The interest rate be a little higher. In the long run, it's significantly less expensive.
Yeah, using local credit unions, HELOC, local banks, keep the money within the same market, within the same region. It just makes a lot more sense. It might not be as smooth as, hey, a hour and a half transaction to do a one-time close with a homeowner. But, when someone's making this decision to go solar battery, it's a life-changing decision. It is not a decision to be made lightly. And it's something that really, hey, if they have to go down and sign paperwork or sign up to be a member of a credit union in order to get the loan or get their own HELOC or take some money out of their savings, that's great. You let them do that because they're making more of an educated choice and it's saving 30 to 35% a day. So the end of the 30% tax credit isn't going to end solar. Solar's resilient and we've gone through a lot of different things. And I think it's great. So there is another thing we talked about, sales. How could people save money on sales?
Yeah. The project acquisitions change, I would think, pretty significantly. So, you can think about what you pay for leads to your sales team when they close the deal. It's a big chunk of the cost of the product or project, excuse me. But that has to ultimately change. And so what does that do for some of these sales organizations? I don't know. They should learn how to install, though. It might get definitely change. That machine change. I've always said that manufacturer, right? Best person to sell my product is me, right? And as a manufacturer, that would be my people, right? And I know that that's not very popular sentiment. That's a great way to reduce costs for the end user. Visit the manufacturer actually generating the lead, possibly even closing it, and then putting that lead into a installer network, right? So I'm a big fan of that. Just pioneered it recently, manufacturer, and it seems to be going well. So I think Tesla used to do it, right? And they still do. That's correct. Um, now I think that with the changes that we've got coming up, the solar pro, hopefully you're going to go sell insurance. Nice. Now you're
I understand. Yeah, I see all the ads on Instagram and Facebook for selling like insurance and other verticals to get out of solar. They're advertising on those feeds right now. Get out of solar.
they because they know that the easy buck is going to be gone, and that's going to lead really, good installers interested in the channel, know how to work. The customer did. I love the regional solar install as opposed to a national. The regional guys know their market. They know, uh, they know their market. It's priceless.
Yeah, they know the AHJs. They know what all the different nuances with every different city and county, and really get the ones that are lean operators, the one in cut out the fluff and are good operators and good at sales are going to be the next leaders that emerge from the
Mojave Solar in Lake Havasu, right? In Arizona. I used to call on those guys. Phenomenal shop, right? Um, I used to tell him, dude, you need to get in Phoenix, man. Phoenix is huge. You need very. He's like, this is where I want to work. This is my neighborhood. These make the electricity on this street was terrible, and I like this is on the priceless information that he has. Mojave Solar. I always look at him and I think I would crush in Phoenix. He's like not interested. He's like, it'd rather be number one in Lake Havasu than battle it out. But yeah, running a lean, good regional installer. Yeah, that's your dream would be to have like 10 of those as opposed to one national too, right?
for sure. We like. All right, awesome. Well, wanted to open it up to the floor for questions. You guys have any questions for any of us up here? Yep.
Yeah, so my name is Ryan Simpson. I work for Lion Energy. We're a U.S.-based battery manufacturer. Here, just about 3 miles down the road. I'm here. But I'm on the board of directors at the residential solar. So we focus a lot on some of these challenges going on and how to help our industry the right way. I guess, we went through different solutions, offering other products within the same vertical. I guess, what are some of the other solutions for partnership space right now, given the headwind? So we have representation from sales, install. We have representation from finance companies and distributors and manufacturers. We're all trying to work together, and we're seeing these companies a lot of. What are some other ideas or strategies where everyone within this ecosystem can try to be safe, mitigate risk, and manage this process as we just explained? It might get a little bit crazy here just with some short-term volume, and what are some of maybe the things that we should avoid?
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate that. And I definitely we saw a code of ethics that was brought up by FDIA that was proposed, and I think that's one thing that the industry can adopt or look at and aspire to, to be able to work together. I think workshops like this, sessions like this, are pivotal in the regions that you're doing business in. If you're not part of any group, look to those groups today to be able to do that. As far as looking, work together collaboratively, even though, hey, we might be competing in the same space, but trying to help the industry as a whole together is definitely another way. Be open to be able to network and to be able to help with that. And it does take a little bit of a commitment, So we see how many people are here today. You guys took this time out of your day to come here. Like, you have valuable time. You could be out doing something different, but you're here. It's going to help you bring some things back to your teams and tell other people, like, come back to Solar Slopes, check out Solar Slopes, invite your customers, invite your colleagues, other people that are in the industry. Because here in Utah, like, I call it Solar Slopes because we have silicon slopes, but there's tons of solar companies that are located in this area, and tons of employees of companies that are not even located here in Utah that work remotely from Utah. So we could actually have a more of an effect with companies throughout the nation by being here at Solar Slopes. You guys have any thoughts?
I would like to see some more cooperation with the utility, right? I think often we think of the utility as a competitor, which they are, right? But the utility does have some pretty phenomenal information on where new electricity load is going to be needed, what nodes are working, which ones are not. And I think if there was some more of a collaborative effort with the utilities, right, they could actually say, hey, having them be roundtable, have a utility roundtable where we could discuss a product. There's some utilities that are out there putting in peaker plants, right? Manage certain loads. Those people, you don't need to do that. You could deploy a bunch of distributed energy resources and batteries, right, into those areas, so they wouldn't have to deploy. We are a power-hungry nation, right? We talk about building factories and all that. Utilities are going to have the power, right? We can't do it on our own. But so I would love to see a more collaboration, utility, more than just the BPP stuff, right? Like I think if we work closer with them, we could even get some of these hurdles of interconnection, which is terrible, right? But don't, right? Jake, Sam.
I just like your common ethic. If you've been around for more than 5 or 6 years, you see a company to left people stranded, taking money, and there's no install. And I've seen companies kind of come to help, right? Step up with, hey, we know you put money down, we'll take less money to get the install. Your problem, right? Stuff like that is happening. It's awesome. It's pretty terrible. There was a company in Southern Utah, mainly out of it, about 2017, that left hundreds of people without installs and taking cash payments up front. Really bad. Look, the reason the state of Utah's passed law against some of that, I think our goal as an industry needs to be the government they have our business. And it's difficult to do when they're paying 30% of the, but they won't for very law. But if we're working together to do the right thing, they can, will, I think, hope. But that's my opinion.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate that. Any other questions for anyone? Yes.
Hi, I'm James Hansen. I was curious on what your guys' thoughts would be about different state incentives that operate in different states as well. On if you have a sales org that operates primarily off of a door-knock schedule, like most sales organizations do, what are your guys' thoughts about converting those into more virtual sales models where you can go through and try generating leads and getting leads state that have incentives for those versus solely relying just on the national incentives?
I think I'm for virtual, right? I came from inside sales. That's kind of how I started in renewable, right? the model that the manufacturer and I that just recently at, moving towards the direct consumer, utilizing virtual. Like I am a huge fan of virtual. Right? It'll help reduce costs. It keep laws, state regulations. Here in Utah, right? Earlier I said that you just can't go door knocking. Here in Utah, you can't, right? And if you're out there door knocking, a little bit offensive, you put on a nice cologne or whatever, they call it cops. You'll get licensed or not. You'll be like, you're loose, right? So I am seeing a door knocker. Sadly they're either they get hammered, right? But I am 100% for. But yeah, the problem with virtual is now you've got a lot of AI, right? That kind of muddy thing. Not a fan of AI. I mean, I like AI. There's something bonds in sales. I think but right next the homeowner got a pot and sale. I
agree. Anything you can do to make yourself more.
Yeah.
So I think it's just I'd watch if you are going to go virtual. You're buying leads. Look at who you're buying those leads from, right? Like that lead company. Make sure that they have reference, and those references that they give you, look at their review. Like you want to be careful of who you're working with, especially in virtual. There's a lot of virtual. It's gonna be called stuff on virtual side as well, right? But I think a lot of it boils down to that you've got to verify.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think virtual is good when, it'll cut down on carbon emissions, things like that, right? But at the same time, somebody may want you to go to their house. I have some customers that go out there and they'll fly a drone and they will do a site survey and have the salesperson there at the same time and then come back with a full quotation. So there's no surprise. And all of those companies with that sort of a sales strategy have an amazing, is they're building trust. They're investing in that homeowner first. And they're utilizing their time. They're going in and doing that. And they're not trying to shove something down their throat in one visit. And it's really important. Especially, I mentioned before, this is life-changing for a homeowner to go solar and get batteries. So it's really important to build that. But does anyone have any other questions? What time is it? I'm going to watch out here. 10:59. Wow. Well, we got through this pretty good. Well, so, hey, just remember, this isn't the end of solar. It's going to continue to go on. Hey, if you diversifying a lean operator, you're going to be able to get through this cycle and many others. And you're going to emerge as that regional leader as time goes on in the next coming years. So just want to, let's give a round of applause for all of our participants. And I want to thank you all for coming today and look forward to seeing you all again at Solar Slopes. Don't forget to tell your friends, your colleagues, other people in the industry, customers to come to Solar Slopes. We're going to have another Solar Slopes next month, and I'll be sending out an invitation for that.